So the next set of basic tools can, except for the X line, which is the construction line that we'll talk about in a second, can be found again in the modify ribbon. So a construction line, or an X line, okay, is a tool that can generate infinitely long lines at any given angle. So essentially they can be used as guidelines to start building your drawing. So the sub-options for the construction line tool include horizontal, vertical, angle bisect, and offset. So these options allow you to create different types of construction lines, such as horizontal and vertical construction lines, and constrain them to those axes. And it'll help us to set up our first drawing. So I'm going to select these objects, and I'm going to hit E for erase and enter. And then where I can find construction line is if I expand the draw. Okay, so as noted, it's not under the modify tool, but it's under the draw tool because we're actually going to be drawing lines. If I expand that, you'll see that the third one in at the top is the construction line, or as AutoCAD refers to it as the X line. I can also type in X line, X line, or the alias for it is XL, and hit enter. So you can see down at the bottom, these are the sub options that we have. So if I just specify a point and click, okay, and if I hit F8, the function 8 key, to turn my ortho off, you can see that I can set construction lines however I want. Okay, and hit escape when I'm done. So the one thing about construction lines, especially with their drawing limits, is that essentially construction lines do not have a limit. So if you're using a construction line, you know, using that hack that I have for the drawing limits, it doesn't work because it's technically an infinite line. Okay, it has no end to it. I'm going to once again erase these guys and start by giving it some constraints. So again, I'm going to type in XL, hit enter, and then looking at my options underneath, okay, I can set, for example, a horizontal one, so H, enter, and I can constrain it to the horizontal, okay, or if I hit enter again, okay, what that does is it redoes the last command. Again, AutoCAD's way of shortening things up for you and giving, allowing you to do more in less time. Okay, if I hit V for vertical, I can constrain them to the vertical. Okay, so now what we can do is we can start to set up our drawings using these types of construction lines. So what I commonly do is I use the offset tool. So if I have a rectangular type of drawing, okay, project, what I will do, what's common for me to do, is I'll type in XL for a construction line, set up a vertical, okay, and then do it again, type in H for horizontal, and set up basically a corner. Now when you start to draw, a lot of times people will use what's called the point of origin, okay, which is the 0, 0, 0 point, which is essentially this point, as a corner, okay, of their project, but we're not going to get into that. But just keep in mind that now, you know, process like that will start to get into file management, and we'll talk about file management again as we go. But right now we're just focusing on drawing. So the offset command allows you to create multiple copies of any object, okay, at a given distance. So this tool is especially useful for helping walls when you start to draft out a space. So upon entering the offset command, you're asked to specify a distance for the offset operation. So this can be done either by specifying 2 points in the model space or by entering a value, okay, and I tend to find that entering the value is the easiest way to go. So to start off with that command, let's use some objects other than the construction lines. Okay, so if I create a circle, let's say I give it a radius of 10 feet. Oops, that is really, I'm really zoomed out. Okay, the offset command, if you type in, you can type in offset, it's up here in, under the modify. Oops, it is located, and this is where you kind of have to search for it a bit because AutoCAD, oops, will, you know, not really hide things, but not everything is labeled, so you kind of have to memorize where things are. So it's this little offset tool here. Okay, it doesn't have a label, but it's right next to array. Okay, or you can type in O and enter, and that's the default alias for offset. Okay, and again, you'll memorize these the more you do it. You'll do these commands a million times, so it'll come naturally. So it's asking me to specify an offset distance. Okay, so let's say I want to offset this circle, let's say 4 inches. Okay, I'm going to type in 4. I'm going to select the object to offset, so click on that, and then I'm going to select the side to offset, so either the outside or the inside. Once I pick that, okay, and I don't have to be specific about it. Okay, you can AutoCAD allows you to be messy to a point. Okay, so I can just click on the outside and click. Okay, and so I can keep on offsetting 4 inches off of an object without exiting the command until I hit escape and exit the command. Okay, so if I select these and hit erase, I will do the same for, let's say, a rectangle. Okay, and let's offset the rectangle, let's say 8 inches. Oops. It's a little big. Okay, but I can do the same for that. Just click and offset, or click and offset to the other side. The one thing that you have to make sure that you don't do is if I click and I offset on basically a line that's already been offset, okay, I can run the risk of having 2 lines on top of each other. And that, again, you know, we'll talk about, and it'll become an issue a little bit, you know, as you start to draft, because things tend to get hidden underneath other objects. So you just have to be mindful of that when you start to work with these modify tools. And I'm going to delete those so you can see how it works with a rectangle. Let's create a polyline. Okay, hit my F8, and let's say 5 feet. This is a polyline rectangle. 5 feet, 2 feet, 5 feet, C for close. Okay, as we just talked about. And then let me create one using the line. Same thing. So 5 feet, 3 feet, 5 feet, and then again I can do the same thing with the line and hit C for close and enter. Okay, and this is the big difference between polylines and lines, okay, is with this offset command. So if I type in O for offset, we can do 8 inches again. What offset does is it always memorizes your last input, knowing that you're probably going to repeat things over and over again. So we can say, you know, if I want to keep 8 inches, I can hit enter, or I can add a new distance, and then I'm going to offset. Okay, so you can see that this is the polyline, and with the polyline, it offset that rectangle as a whole, offset 8 inches. Now when I do with the line, and I click on the line and I offset, it only does the segments. Okay, and what we'll find in the next video is that, I just enter to get out of that, or escape to get out of that, this is going to create a little bit more work for us. Okay, so people say that, you know, as a rule of thumb, it's always good to start off just drawing polylines, and lines, drawing a line should be a secondary task to polylines. Like, you know, if I have to draw lines, I should always start off using polylines. But again, we'll get into this the more we go through it.